Hey guys, what if I told you there's a country that's defaulted on its debt 9 times in modern history, more than any other nation on Earth? Have you ever wondered why investors keep lending billions to Argentina, only to get burned over and over? How can a resource-rich powerhouse with fertile lands, oil, and educated people keep refusing to pay its creditors, and still somehow borrow again? And what happens when a government literally says no to Wall Street and the IMF? Today, we're unpacking the wild rollercoaster of Argentine's sovereign debt defaults, the nation that became famous for telling the world we're not paying. Stick around for this deep dive, because the numbers, the drama, and the comebacks will leave you speechless. Let's break it down key point by key point. First, big question. How does a country become the world champion of debt defaults? Argentina holds the grim record with 9 sovereign defaults since independence in 1816, 5 of them just since 1980. The latest big one, 2020, when they restructured $65 billion in bonds during the pandemic. But the most infamous was 2001, the largest sovereign default in history at the time. A staggering $93 billion in external debt, later ballooning to over $100 billion, including interest and past due payments. Imagine owing $100 billion and just walking away. That 2001 crisis wiped out the middle class overnight. GDP plunged 11% in 1 year. Unemployment hit 25%. Poverty skyrocketed to over 50%. Banks froze accounts in the infamous Corralito, and riots toppled 5 presidents in weeks. Argentina didn't just default. They shattered trust. Yet somehow, they've done it again, and again. 1982, 1989, 2001, 2014 technical default. 2020, no other country comes close. Why? Chronic overspending, political populism, reliance on commodity exports, soy, beef, oil, and a habit of borrowing in dollars while earning in pesos. It's a vicious cycle that keeps repeating. Next, what makes Argentina uniquely bold? They literally refuse to pay certain creditors, earning the nickname serial default. After the 2001 collapse, President Néstor Kirchner in 2005 offered bondholders a brutal haircut. Take 30 to 35 cents on the dollar or get nothing. Shockingly, 93% accepted, one of the highest participation rates ever. But a small group of holdouts, mostly hedge funds, like Paul Singer's Elliott Management, said no. They sued in New York courts. Most Argentine bonds were under NY law and won. Singer's fund bought distressed bonds for pennies, then fought for full payment plus interest. By 2014, they'd ballooned a $1.3 billion claim to over $2.5 billion. Argentina's response under Cristina Kirchner, defiant. She called them vultures on national TV and flat out refused to pay, triggering a technical default in 2014, even though the country had money. For years, Argentina was locked out of international markets, forced to borrow from China, Russia, or domestic sources at insane rates. The standoff lasted until 2016, when new President Mauricio Macri cut a deal paying holdouts $9.3 billion, about 75% of their claims, including interest. It was one of the biggest payouts to hedge funds ever. But the message was clear. Argentina will fight, delay, and negotiate hard, sometimes refusing for over a decade. Now, the human cost. How does repeated default destroy lives? In 2001, the crisis was apocalyptic. Savings evaporated as the peso was devalued 70% overnight. People who had dollars in banks got forced into pesos at awful rates. Supermarket lootings, barter clubs sprang up. Cardboard collectors, cartoneros, became a symbol of despair. Suicide rates spiked. Malnutrition rose. Over 20 banks failed. The middle class vanished. Millions fell into poverty. Even after recovery in the 2000s, fueled by high soy prices, defaults kept coming. 2020's restructuring during COVID avoided chaos. But inflation exploded to over 200% in 2023 under hyper-populist policies. Poverty hit 40 to 50% again. Emigration surged, young professionals fleeing. Every default resets the clock. Higher interest rates, capital flight, currency crashes. Argentines live with constant uncertainty, dollars under the mattress, parallel blue exchange rates. It's generational trauma. The comeback question: how does Argentina keep borrowing after refusing to pay? Surprisingly well. After Macri's 2016 settlement, they rushed back to markets, issuing a $2.75 billion 100-year bond in 2017 at 8% yield. Investors lined up. Why? High returns, belief in reform, and commodity wealth. But the cycle repeated. Macri borrowed $57 billion from the IMF, largest bailout ever, then lost re-election. Alberto Fernandez defaulted again in 2020, restructured, and by 2024 to 2025 under Libertarian President Javier Milei. Argentina is renegotiating with the IMF, again while slashing spending dramatically. Bond prices are rising, reserves rebuilding slowly. Investors have short memories. When yields are juicy, Argentina can still tap markets, but always at junk rates 10 to 20% higher than peers. Finally, the biggest lesson. What does Argentina teach the world about sovereign debt? You can't jail a country. Unlike companies or people, sovereigns can default and survive no foreclosure, no bankruptcy court. Creditors have limited power, seize ships holdouts, once grabbed an Argentine Navy vessel, freeze assets, sue for years, but the debtor nation holds most cards. Argentina proved you can say no, endure pain, and eventually restructure on your terms. It exposed flaws in the global system, no real mechanism to force repayment or fair haircuts. The 2001 default sparked debates, still raging today. Should there be sovereign bankruptcy? Should vulture funds be restricted? Argentina's defiance inspired Greece, Ukraine, others to push harder in negotiations. So, which part hit you hardest? The 9 defaults, the vulture fund war, or how they keep coming back to borrow? Drop it in the comments side. Read every single one. If this wild ride shocked you, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell for more insane financial stories that changed the world. Thanks for watching the full 10 minutes, your legends. See you in the next one. Stay sharp out there.